Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. It's so good to see you. So many friendly names in the chat. I love it. I'm glad you enjoyed this song. That was Diana's pick. She is a magician. She is wonderful. I am Dr. Alex Walker, and so excited to be here with you all today. We have a really great session planned for you at this Learn at Work Live. So thank you for taking the time to be here. As a reminder, you'll receive the recording and the handout, and you'll get all of that next week in an email so you can go back and watch it again and see it. And we are going to dig right in because we have a lot to talk about. I do want to share with all of you that while you can't come off of mute and we can't see your faces, we can engage with you in the chat. So please share your thoughts, your experiences, and your questions in the chat. We want to hear from you. It makes today go a whole lot better. So welcome to how to give difficult feedback. I would say this is probably the biggest life challenge that I've had in my career and my personal life. And it is something that I know a lot of folks struggle with. Doing this well can be challenging and nerve-wracking, and it can bring up so much stuff. So I'm psyched to have a pro here with us today to help us do that. For those of you who are new, I want to tell you a little bit about who we are. ACJI, this is the directors of ACJI. We're the Alliance for Community and Justice Innovation, and we bring together seasoned practitioners who specialize in strengthening leadership and working on organizational culture. We try to harness the power of implementation science to help new and emerging leaders thrive with clarity, confidence, and purpose. We are practitioners. All of us have worked in the field for long, long periods of time, and we like to bring practical, applicable tools, skills, and strategies to you so that you can turn around and use them right away. Today is no different. So I am excited to talk about some real-time feedback stuff with you all today. I want to introduce, if you haven't met Karen, she is a powerhouse on our team. She is a masterful executive coach who helps people face that hard stuff with honesty and humor and real compassion. She's one of my favorite people to work alongside. And she's truly brilliant at helping people to uncover blind spots that hold them back and that prevent them from really moving towards meaningful change. She has done some exceptional work and she is brilliant at it. If you're ready for a true journey inward, Karen is your gal. She is the coach that you want to work with. If you want to learn more about her and what she does with us and what she does in the rest of her life as well, we will put a link to her bio from her website in the chat so that you can check her out. She is amazing and you're going to get to know her here today. Karen, I'm excited to have you here. Thank you for taking the time. If I may, I want you to know we have people joining us from, I'm going to take a deep breath, Iowa, Texas, Minnesota, Illinois, Kansas, Colorado, New York, Pennsylvania, Indiana, Tennessee, Ohio, California, North Carolina, Rhode Island, Wisconsin, Arizona, Vermont, Oregon, and France. Love it. So we have a lot of people here today who are ready to talk about feedback and all the things that come with it. Do you want to share anything about yourself before we dig in?
Only that I don't think of myself as a pro, but I do think of myself as a nerd. So I just can't get enough of this stuff. I live it, I breathe it. In my spare time, I'm reading about it. So I do want to say that whatever I share today is always shared in the spirit of see if it fits for you, right? There's not one strategy that fits for everyone. I hope that everybody will leave today with at least a nugget of something new that they want to try. And we did put together a really extensive handout so that I could ease my mind that you would for sure take away something in case I got off track. So there's a lot in the handout, and I'm available for questions. I'll stay on whatever we need to do. But I'm super
Awesome.
excited to talk about one of my favorite things with one of my favorite people. So thank you for this
Oh,
opportunity.
thanks for being here. So don't panic, everyone. We will give you the QR code and the link to the handout at the end of the session today. So we will get there. Don't you worry. For now, let's start digging in. So The term feedback means different things to different people. And so I'm wondering, can we start from a place of language and lens? How are you defining feedback today?
Yes, it is a great question because how we define feedback internally really affects how willing we are to do it.
Mm,
So
good point.
yeah, my definition is information intended to be clarifying and helpful, neutral,
Mm,
right? A lot, if we think of feedback as some awful thing that we have to tell someone about that they're going to hate hearing, who wants to talk about that? Right? That's why we end up delaying it. We put it off. We pretend we don't need to do it. If it's information, then I see it as a gift because what we're
mm,
doing is we're helping people understand where they are through someone else's lens, right? So that they can then decide where they want to go from where they are, if it's not where they want to be. So if we withhold that information because we're anxious about it or we feel like it's bad news or something like that, then we're actually denying them an opportunity to do something different. And I think that's a shame.
mm. That feels really powerful. I think it takes the critical aspect out of it. I mean, I think I've often felt of feedback as like my opportunity to tell you what you're doing wrong. And I really appreciate this different definition and how when you reframe how you define feedback, it then becomes a responsibility, right? You're doing yourself and other people a disservice if you don't share what you're noticing.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love that. Well, I love that you said it's a gift. So did Sue in the chat. She also said it's a gift. And there's a lot of folks sharing their definitions, a constructive response to an action, providing coaching to staff, move them on their journey, oh, an opportunity for growth. So lots of good ideas in the chat about what it could mean. When we think about definitions, how have you seen people go about the feedback can you tell how people are defining it and how it's holding them back? Like, can you see that happening in people's brains?
That is a great question. I don't have X-ray vision, but I can see when we're talking about it, absolutely. And there's stories that we tell ourselves about what feedback is that
Mm,
really impact how we do it and whether we do it, right? So when people are feeling like they need to tiptoe, or gosh, I need to phrase this exactly right, or
mm,
all these parameters around how it has to be done, then I know that they're not really seeing it as a gift. Because when we see it as a gift, we just offer it. We do it routinely, we do it casually, we do it frequently, we do it in both directions. We're not afraid to give it, we're also not afraid to ask for it. And so, what
mm.
I really advocate for is that feedback becomes routine. It's just another thing that we do all the time. It's an offering to help someone improve, and it's an investment in our own improvement and development as well.
I love that. I want to dig more into kind of those messages and how we can dread some of these feedback conversations. I know for me, there have been some conversations that I have dreaded so much, I put it off. And then I tell myself, well, now it's been too long, so I can't have it. I'll just wait for next time. And then every time something happens and I put it off, I feel like I just get more and more worked up about why it's important to have it and why I don't want to have it and whose
Yeah.
fault it is and all of that.
Yes. I think there's a few things that happen there. One is that when we don't see it as a gift, we get worried
Mm.
about how they're going to respond to it, right?
Yeah.
So so then we avoid, and then it grows, and then by the time we have to do it, we feel so escalated ourselves because we didn't take the edge off when we could have at the beginning, right? And
Mm,
so I also want to say that I think that worry and that reluctance is a very natural reaction when we're not sure how to say it.
mm,
So because we don't have the tools to feel confident and competent, pretty much in any area of life we do this, right? We push it aside. Like, I don't know if I'm so good at that, so maybe I don't actually have to do that. Maybe it'll just work itself out. Maybe someone else will do it. Maybe they'll figure it out on their own, right? And so it's not wrong to delay something that you're not sure you know how to do and you're afraid of opening a whole can of worms. So, what
Mm.
I do when I work with people is I help them feel not afraid so that they can do it when it's small and that they do it in a way that it's an offering, not an imposition, right? So, it's not like when we think our feedback is a demand or a manipulation or a I don't know what the other word is, but when we see it that way, we're right to not want to do it because that's not what it is. What it is,
Mm.
hey, here's a perspective. Here's an issue that I want us to figure out together. For your good, for the organization's good, for everyone's good, right? So it's not like we're coming from above and we're imposing this thing on them. We're just having a conversation. Hey, I'm noticing this is happening. What do you think's going on there?
Mhm.
What can you tell me about that? What do you know about this that I don't know? So there's a, I'm always talking about, and if you take the intensive, you'll hear this all the time about the humility and curiosity is the spirit that we want to approach feedback. I'm
Mhm.
seeing a piece of this puzzle. I'm not seeing the whole thing. I can't, right? So with humility, I'm offering, hey, this is how it's looking. What's it looking like from your perspective? And how are we going to put our heads together? Like not like we're going to ram each other, but we're going to put our heads together and we're going to face this issue together, bringing both of what we have to the problem.
I love that. It makes me think of two things. And to everyone that's on here, please share your experiences in the chat about and what you think about this idea. I love the idea of humility and curiosity. I see a real opportunity for it to bridge the gap between how we evaluate ourselves based on our intentions. I intended for this to go well, or I intended for it to be helpful, and how it impacts others. And by coming at it from that frame, we can maybe learn something about how what we're seeing is not the whole picture, as you're saying. It's really something else we never even considered because it wasn't in our heads, and it might help us a tremendous amount by learning that from other people.
Well said. I was just thinking about this the other day that before mirrors were invented, we didn't even know what we looked like. Really?
Oh,
We are creatures of feedback. We needed someone else to tell us, like, there's a bee on your face or whatever it was, because we can't see ourselves with our own eyes. We cannot see our face with our own eyes, right? We don't know if we have spinach in our teeth until someone tells us. And what a gift that is. Hey, I'm sharing my perspective. I'm not
yeah.
saying I'm right. I'm just sharing it as my perspective. Now, so I see someone in the chat said, what do you call it when you are presenting demands? That's something we definitely go into in the intensive is there are times where it's not collaborative. It's not. The outcome may not be collaborative, the process may not be collaborative, but what is always collaborative is we have two perspectives that we need to air around those
Mm.
things. So there's a tiny piece of collaboration in every feedback conversation. Depending on the topic, the requirements, etc., it could be a big piece where they have what I like to make the distinction between a voice and a vote. So, do they have a voice, which is I'm making the decision, but I'm interested in your input? And I'm very clear about that up front. This isn't going to be something that we're voting on, but I do want to hear what you guys think about this.
Mm.
Versus a voice and a vote, which is we're going to make this decision together. And so I really want to know what you think. Let's brainstorm how this might work and not work, etc. But I got to be clear from the start which of those it is. Otherwise, people think they had a vote, but they really only had a voice, and then they stop talking after that because they feel like what they said didn't matter
Ah.
because they thought that they were going to get a vote, and they're not.
You just blew my mind, Karen. I love this. What a simple thing to remember. And what a great way, instead of trying to figure out what's the perfect or right way to have this conversation, to really think about what's the intention here? What do I want to make sure that they understand going into this so that it can be fruitful? And having a voice and a vote is such a wonderful way to set an intention and to be clear up front, this is what's possible in this conversation. This is where we can collaborate. I
Yeah.
think that's really great.
And another thing that I think I break down the course into what we do before giving feedback, what we do during, and then what we do after. right? So the
Mhm.
before part, I feel like, is the biggest, most important part. And so the voice or a vote decision is a before part. Another part, and this is a little delicate, I guess, to say. So I hope I say it in a skillful way here. But the other part is that the first person that we need to give feedback to is ourselves.
Mm.
So when I delegated this assignment, when I hired this person for this role, when I assigned this work, did I give them everything they needed to be successful? Did
Mm.
I explain what I was looking for clearly? Or did I expect them to kind of read my mind a little bit? Did I build in support, resources, training, check ins? Did I do all the things on my side? And the reason why that's so important for us to look at first is because feedback just equals frustration when people are getting feedback on something they didn't know they were supposed to be doing.
Mm.
Like, if I'm hearing this for the first time in a feedback conversation, now we've got defensiveness, right?
Yeah.
So I got to look first. Did I do my part? And if I didn't, it's not a feedback situation yet. I got to go do my part and then see if we still need feedback or not.
Yeah. What a great point. And it makes me think about, you talked about, do they understand what the expectations are? Not just did I communicate it clearly, but did I check for meaning? Did I circle back and say some version of, what did you just hear me say? Or what do you think the expectations are? What's your understanding of your role or this project, or what desirable outcomes look like here? Because so often I think we communicate clearly from our perspective, but what other people hear isn't necessarily the same thing.
Yeah. In my head, I think of that as, and I'm dating myself here, but the Charlie Brown teacher who's like, wah, 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 wah. Sometimes we said something that inadvertently freaked the person out, and all they heard after that was the Charlie Brown teacher, right? So then when we get to the end of that assigning or delegating conversation, we want to say, so that I can make sure that I got everything. What are you taking away from this conversation? What's your understanding,
Mm.
just like you said, of what's happening here? And I don't say so you understand. I say to make sure I was clear. I want to take that on me, right? I don't want to insult them in asking for a summary. Like, there's a lot going on here. What are you taking away? What did you hear about what we're going to be doing? And the
Mm.
and not only does that clarify that we're on the same page, it also sometimes in the hearing it back, I realize I forgot something. Or, ooh, now that I hear them talk about this, I realize I didn't put a line item in the budget for that. I got some work to do on my side, right? So it
Mm.
helps both of us when we have that summary at the end.
I really appreciate, though, it's a very empathetic lens to say, I want to know so I can understand, not I want to know to make sure that you got it,
Yeah.
but really owning that piece of setting people up to be successful and making sure they understand what the expectations are, not because it's written in policy, not because it's somewhere in a manual somewhere, but because we've had a meaningful conversation. If it's important enough to hold someone accountable or responsible for things, we should own making sure that they are set up for success to be able to do that.
Yeah.
I love that.
And it impacts the trust in our relationship as well. If
Mm.
we're asked to do things that are unreasonable, impossible, they don't have the resource to do it, then it starts to erode their trust in us as their manager. Why do you keep asking me to do things and not giving me the resources to do them? And
Mm.
morale starts to tank.
Yeah. I hear a psychological safety piece in that too. If I don't feel comfortable to circle back to you and say, I don't think I understand this, or I think I'm doing it wrong, or I don't have what I need, I think that gap exists as well. And I'd imagine that giving feedback well and setting people up well could really create a lot of psychological safety so people can come back to you and say, I don't get it, or I'm not doing it, and I don't understand.
I'm so glad you brought that up because it segues perfectly into another one of my before feedback things. I talked earlier about wanting to make feedback routine. I am such a huge fan of regular one-on-ones.
Mm.
And sometimes people just cringe when they think about scheduling all that time, right? And I'm gonna try and persuade you a little bit here that if you added up all the time that you were interrupted or derailed on any given day or week
Mm,
by questions, that if we had regularly scheduled one-on-ones, if they knew that Thursday at 10, every Thursday at 10, I will have your full attention for 20 minutes, they would save up all those interruptions for Thursday at 10. If it's an
mm,
emergency, that's different, right? But regular one-on-ones where we set aside the time, they know they're going to have our full attention, and we check in on these things. So it doesn't get too far off track. So they don't have to fight our busy schedule to get in and get our attention. And so
mm-hmm,
that they're used to this feedback loop. I open them up by saying, "So what's on your mind?" Gigantic open question. What's on your mind? Right? I will find out things that I did not know
mm.
that could really save me a lot of work down the road if I find them out early.
That's a good point. It it like rubs up against my I have to be busy to have value piece and identity issue, but that's an issue for a different webinar, folks. So we'll talk about that somewhere else. So I want to circle back to the dread piece because there's actually a feedback conversation that I'm dreading
Oh,
that I thought maybe you could help me think through about like why I'm avoiding it or what I could do differently. So essentially, I work alongside somebody who is brilliant and smart and knows all the things. And when they come to different spaces to engage with other people, they have a tendency to dominate the conversation. So they talk a lot about a lot of things, and it's all good. They're good, smart, wonderful contributions, but it's a lot. It's very hard for other folks to get a word in edgewise. And what I've noticed is that sometimes people shut down or don't even try at this point because they know that person is there and that person is going to take up the space and do the thing. And so I see it as a real opportunity for that person to grow in their leadership journey, to pause more, maybe ask questions instead of giving answers, or just listen more often, even though their answers are often right and well thought out and all of those things. The piece to it here, though, is that I it's not my role. I don't work directly with or for them. And so it's not my role really to give them feedback. This would be kind of here's what I've noticed from a tangential space. And I've used that as an excuse to really not say anything because I don't know if they want the feedback or if they're going to appreciate the feedback. And so I'm just curious, am I alone? Does this happen? And what would you recommend?
I'm sure that we'll see in the chat in about 30 seconds that you are so not alone, right? So I'm curious, if you rethink all of that through the lens of offering this as the gift of opportunity to that person, how does that change your thinking, if at all?
I do see it as a potential gift. I think I also hear myself in my head saying, yes, but what if they don't take it well?
Yeah, yeah. Reasonable thing to be concerned about for sure, right? Because you're playing the long game. You want a good relationship with this person. So,
Yeah.
yeah, here comes the "you're not alone" in the chat, right?
Thank you.
The solidarity out there. So, so for me, and this is just my thoughts on this. I'll be curious to see what people want to share in the chat as well. For me, the humility and curiosity piece is really, really crucial when we're giving any feedback, but especially to a peer, right? So this is how I might say it. So, and I'm all about transparency. I think transparency is like the best thing ever, right? So I
Mm.
would say I've been debating about talking to you about something, and it's a piece of feedback that I'm not even sure that you're interested in having, and it has to do with talk time in meetings. Is that something you even want to hear about?
Huh. That's really great. Giving them the option to say, no, thank you.
Yeah, like I'm good. Or like if it at first when you were talking, I was like, is it me? Is it me? Is it me, that person? Because that's me, right? And then I know it's
Carla said that too. It's not you either, Carla.
But I might, if I was the receiver and you came to me and said, I'm thinking about sharing this thing with you, but I don't even know if it's something you're interested in. And if you said it was about talk time, I would probably say, that is so sweet of you, and I really appreciate the intention, but honestly, like, I don't think that's probably going to change. But
Mm,
tell me anyway, because I want to hear how I'm coming across. But I am such a babbler. Like, I can't promise it'll change.
mm,
But I would love to hear it, right? So, what we're doing when we sort of extend a little on ramp to the person, right, is we're giving them the opportunity to decide, which is so respectful, right?
yeah.
We're also sharing it in the spirit of like, I don't even know if this would be received as an offering. And if it isn't, no problem. I don't even need to say this, right? It's just my perspective. So there's the
Yeah.
humility and curiosity. We're also igniting a little bit of curiosity in them, right? Like, you're a respected colleague. Huh, I am kind of curious what you have to say. And so there's space created in their brain from curiosity rather than aversion because of the way you brought it up and because of who you are to them. If you were just some rando in the audience, your feedback is not useful
Mm. That
unless
is really helpful. You're
that's really,
encouraging me.
yeah.
I
So
l- I
get per
love it.
get permission. Like, I don't know if this would even be helpful for you or not, but I'm having this thought to offer to you. And
Hmm.
totally no problem if you don't want to hear it.
Yeah, I love that strategy. And I'm seeing in the chat, Peter mentioned something that I think comes up for a lot of us too, that would be helpful here is when the person you're giving feedback to either truly does have far more experience than you do, or that's at least the message you're telling yourself. They've done this for longer, but maybe now you're in a supervisor role, or even as a peer, you're noticing things, but this is someone who is seasoned. And I could hear myself in your comment, Peter, about like, who am I to say? Like, you've been
Yeah.
doing this longer than I. Does
Yeah.
that come up for folks?
I'm so glad this came up. I am so glad this came up because the underlying belief in that is that your feedback is criticism. And you're right. Don't criticize someone who's got more experience than you, right? You're right to not want to do that. But when you're offering it as your perspective, that's different. It's a different offering. They can feel free to disregard it if they think it's ridiculous, right?
Mhm.
But your side of the street is not to withhold, especially if you're supervising them. You need to share your perspective and you need to say it in a way like, I don't know if anybody's familiar with motivational interviewing, but that's my other thing that I'm really into. And there's the ask, offer, ask. So I would like to share something with you, and I'll be curious to hear your thoughts. What I'm
Mhm.
noticing is this, or what I'm perceiving is this. How does that sit with you? So every little piece that I share, I'm inviting them to share back. So I'm not
I
just
love that.
driving by, dumping, I think you need to, or whatever, and then driving away. It's offered with humility and curiosity, and it's digested bit by bit so that they
Mm.
can say, well, I've been here a long time and you don't understand how, whatever. I could say, you're right. You're right. I'm bringing this to your attention because I want to hear your thoughts on it. And there is a presumption that I always have when I'm giving feedback that, like, I don't see this whole puzzle. Maybe the little piece that I'm seeing and my perspective on it is absolutely not indicative of the big picture. And if they can clue me in, like, yeah, I thought that too when I first started, but what I learned over the years is this, then I'm thrilled that I get to learn that now.
Mhm. I love that. And I appreciate you've said it several times, like this idea of creating some distance instead of saying you did this, stop it or whatever. It's really I'm noticing, right? And I think that in and of itself is that great combination of humility and curiosity of it, the I don't know the whole story and I have questions about this. I need to better understand why this is the way that it is or whatever.
Yeah,
I
and my
think we're
little
oh, sorry, go
distillation of
ahead.
that is kind of like, hey, I'm noticing this. What can you tell me about that?
Mm, yeah. And it gives an opportunity to share. Maybe I can't tell you how many times I was functioning as if, right? I'm doing it because that's the way I thought we were supposed to do it. And then there's an opportunity to say, actually, that's not how we do things here. I want you to shift and go this way.
Mhm.
If that's the, and I think that might be what Robin's getting to in the chat about how confrontation can be uncomfortable. I assume she means, these kinds of conversations, especially when there has to be an end result that is driving behavior change, right? So if we think about a traditional supervisory role, giving feedback about this has to change, what I'm hearing is it better to be clear on the expectation than allowing the behavior to continue? And I think that speaks to your point earlier about if feedback is happening often and always when it's small, that becomes easier to do than if we store it all up and just kind of dump it on people.
And sometimes we do just store it up because it was under our radar or we didn't get to it or whatever, and we're human,
Mhm.
right? So at that point, what I would say is, you know what? I'm kind of embarrassed that I didn't bring this up before, but here we are. Right?
I
So I don't
like
want to
that.
let it just keep growing in the dark because I'm embarrassed. Like, own it. I should have brought this up a while ago, and I'm sorry I didn't. But here we are, and I need to bring it up now. And let me acknowledge my side of it is I should have told you this sooner.
Mm, I love it. These are so good. I mean, my goal was to extract all of your favorite tips for making sharing feedback easier. I feel like you're already giving us a lot. Do you have other kind of go-to tips on how to do this?
I think maybe it'd be helpful to just sort of condense a little like giving feedback thing. And maybe we could use your example on how to deliver the feedback to your um, talkative person in your life. Right.
Awesome. And for
So
those of you in the class, tell us your stories too. We can maybe get to some of your things that you're putting off, feedback opportunities that you're avoiding. So
yeah,
share
plug,
away.
plug your issue into what I'm saying here, right?
Yeah.
So we talked about first cleaning up your side of the street, right? So making sure you're clear on what the information is that you want to convey,
Mm-hmm.
that you have phrased it in your mind in the most neutral, observable, objective way possible.
Mm-hmm.
So, what I won't say is I'm never going to diagnose someone's intention. I don't like to do that ever, but especially in feedback, right? So, I'm not going
Mm-hmm.
to say to that person, it seems like you just don't care what other people think because you just keep talking over them. That's
Mm-hmm.
diagnosing intention, right? But if I say I noticed that talk time in the meeting that you have a pretty big share of talk time in the meeting, and I'm wondering what your thoughts are about that. So little neutral observation, open
Mm-hmm.
question. What are their thoughts? What do what have you noticed? What do you think? And that is sort of the first fork in the road that decides where we go from there, right? So if the person's like, huh, I didn't notice I was doing that, we're going to have a different conversation. If they say, yeah, 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 I do that all the time, we're going to have a different conversation from there, right? So we don't
Mm-hmm.
go in with the whole thing mapped out because it's a collaborative conversation. We go in with our intention clear, our neutral language, and an open mind, and we
Mm-hmm.
see, right? So then we're going to be listening to what they tell us about what they think. And
Yeah.
that needs to sink in and it needs to inform our next question,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they might say in that situation, probably the most likely thing is not really something that you're going to help them solve unless they ask you to, right? So that might go like this. Yeah, I've been getting feedback about that since I was early in my career that I'm a talker. I'm just a talker, right? I always have a lot to say. And then I'm just listening. I'm letting them hear themselves talk. I'm letting things percolate a little bit inside. And often, what happens when I'm not trying to steer them, all I did was just offer this neutral information, then something starts happening in them where they're like, do you think it's a problem? Like, what are you noticing around the room that I'm not noticing?
Mm-hmm.
Now we're in collaboration. Now we're in collaboration and I can say, well, sometimes I notice people seem to like get really active and like get on their phone, or I notice that they break eye contact. What have you noticed? So my part in this needs to be kept pretty small,
Mm-hmm.
right? I don't launch into a big lecture. I give a little piece and then I check it out how it landed with them.
I like that.
And so then they might say, I've heard this happen by the end. They might say, would you help me? Like, can we have a signal? Because I don't want to be that guy or that woman, right? I don't want to be the one that everybody just glazes over when I start talking. That's not where I want to be. And because I'm not noticing it, when you like take off your glasses and put them on the table, can that be sort of a cue between us that it's time for me to shut up?
Mm.
I'm there as a supportive partner, but they're driving my role
Mhm.
in that type of conversation where it's with a peer and it's not a requirement of their job that they do something different.
Yeah.
That's
I love that. And I love like, it feels like a real opportunity to come together around it, and it's very MI in spirit in that you're talking less. I think sometimes I know I have felt pressure that if I'm gonna come to a feedback session with someone, I better have all my ducks in a row and, like, be prepared to show evidence and, I'm gonna talk more than someone else, but, what I'm hearing is, like, a little piece of information and check in and see where it goes. A little piece of information, check in and see where it goes.
yeah. And the prep work is really in getting clear about your message, about how you will explain what you're seeing or what
Mm,
the data is telling you, or as the case may be, right? But from that point, you don't know where it's going to go.
mhm.
You can't know where it's going to go.
Yeah, that's fair. So there's a whole bunch of stuff happening in the chat. Thank you, everyone. Keep them coming. There's a couple of things I want to pull out here because, and so I'm going to start with what about when you're pretty certain, based on history or whatever, that the person you're delivering feedback to is not going to take it well, that they are going to be emotional, defensive, or they just don't care, and you really need behavior to change? What
Mhm.
are some strategies or thoughtful ways to give feedback in those situations?
I love that question. First of all, thank you for whoever asked it. Um, so in situations where I expect, based on history, that the person is going to not be like, well, thank you for letting me know, right? Less than receptive. I really make sure that I do my homework first so that I've got it described in a neutral way. I make sure that I'm choosing a time and a place to do this where we won't be overheard. People protecting people's privacy and feedback, super important. And where I have enough time to see this through, right? So no drive-bys, no just popping in your head doing this where other people can hear you. If you expect or anticipate that it might get. So then I have a few little phrases in my toolkit for situations like that. So I'm still going to do the I noticed this. What are your thoughts about it? Then I might say the for reasons, whatever they are. Reason A, we're looking for outcome B needs to happen. It's part of the requirements, it's part of the regulations, whatever it is. What are your thoughts about what needs to change so we can get that happening? So
Mhm,
we're still collaborating. They might have thoughts about what needs to change that I didn't even think of. So I'm not giving a directive, but I am giving a directive in the sense that this must change or this
mhm,
must be done in this certain way. How do you think that might happen? If they have no idea, then I'm going to make some suggestions, right? If they cry, which some people are just criers.
mhm.
I had a woman who's a crier tell me, she was like, you're probably going to see my eyes well up in tears during our meeting. I want you to keep talking, keep going. It just happens. It's totally embarrassing. I always have tissues. It doesn't mean stop. I will manage
Mm,
that and like just heads up. So if you're a crier, I thought that was so amazing how she said that, right? Just warning you, you'll see tears, keep going.
yeah.
So if they're crier, they told you about it, don't worry about it. If they cry because they seem overwhelmed, then I say something like this. I see that this is hard to hear. And what I want to make sure I'm doing is putting this in context for you. So this thing we're talking about is a small thing in an otherwise stellar performance, if this is true, right? I want to make sure you know we're talking about a small issue in an excellent performance. And why don't we take some time to think things over and pick this up later?
Mm.
So I
What if
want,
you're not talking about a small thing in an otherwise stellar situation?
and they're, and in, if they're crying or just in life.
I mean both.
Yeah. Yeah. So if they're crying and it's not true that it's a small thing, then I'm going to say something like, I see that this is hard to hear, and that's understandable. Let's take some time to think about this and come back
Mm,
together. No matter what, when someone's losing it, whether it's because they're angry, whether it's because they're defensive, whether it's because they're emotional, the feedback is not landing after that point. So we've got to
mm,
pause, take a break.
great
It
point.
doesn't mean they're getting out of it. It doesn't mean that we're avoiding it. It means we're protecting people's dignity, and also we're not wasting our own time, because once that's happened, it's like pouring water on dry soil and it just runs off. We're pouring
Mm,
feedback on a closed system, right? There's nowhere for it to land. Productive time is over.
yeah,
So I love to say, let's both take some time to think about this and come back together later, whether it's later today or tomorrow, not next week, not next month, right? It's not done, but let's take some time to think it through.
it's a great strategy. Okay, here's another big one. I hear this all the time for the last however many years is how do I give feedback up? Right?
Yeah.
It's one thing to give feedback to people we're supervising or
Yeah.
even our peers, but how do you give feedback up?
This is a huge topic that I'm just at the point of writing for the intensive, because I know
Nice.
it's giant, right? So we're going to do a ton of practice in the intensive as well. And this is one of our scenarios, is giving it up. So briefly, it's a similar thing to giving it to a peer, in the sense of like, I have some thoughts about this thing. Are you interested in hearing about them?
Mm,
Are you interested? For all the same reasons. It makes room for them to be a little bit curious. If they are, it makes room for them to say no and save your breath if they're not. It puts you on record as paying attention, but you're not intrusive, you're not invasive, you're not demanding of them. If you've got a good relationship with them, most of the time when you bring it up in that way, like, I'm noticing something, I'm not sure if it's on your radar. I'm also not sure if it's something you're interested in hearing about. Most of the time
mhm,
you're going to get, of course, I'm interested in hearing about it. And then you proceed in the same way with the spirit of humility and curiosity. I'm noticing this, and I'm wondering how that lands with you. I'm wondering
mm,
what your thoughts are about that. Very often, when we're giving feedback up, there's context that we do not have that explains what's going on.
mm,
Always. Not always, but sometimes. So, as I'm talking to leaders, this is an example where I say, like, ask your people for feedback. Don't make them wonder how they're going to penetrate your defenses and get this information to you. Ask them all the time. Ask them at the end of every one-on-one. What can I be doing to support you better? What am I not seeing that you want to get on my radar? So,
mhm.
so when you're the one who's above, make sure you're asking and
Yeah.
receiving it graciously, which is a whole nother topic in our intensive, right?
Right?
How do we receive it graciously? Because if we don't, the feedback will dry up and
Yeah.
we're losing the opportunity that it gives us.
So a few things here. One, you've mentioned the intensive a few times, and I want everyone to know we're going to talk about that in a bit. So that information is coming. But then you mentioned as a leader, ask for feedback and then take it graciously. So I would like to divide these up and say, especially in places where we're trying to build psychological safety and maybe the trust and relationship isn't there yet, ask a lot of times if you ask for feedback, you're going to get crickets. You get nothing, not because there isn't any, but because people don't necessarily feel safe. So I'd love to know, do you have any suggestions about how to ask for feedback in a way that opens the door for people to share things?
Mhm.
And then two, if you don't hear it graciously, guilty, uh, what's the best course of action so that you don't shut the door? Like, I want to give permission for us to not always be on our best,
Yeah,
even though we want to try to do that. When we're not at our best in those moments, what's the next steps that we should take to repair?
yes. And they're similar, the answers are similar, right?
Oh,
So
great.
so we're always wanting to be what we want to see, right? And
Ooh.
part of what we want to, I think there's a shortening of Gandhi, which is be the change you want to see in the world, but I like be what you want to see. So, especially in a leadership role. So, what I want to model is how to repair when things get off track because they will. We're humans. We're humans managing
Mhm.
humans. We have bad days, we have bad moods, we have situations that are stressful, whatever. So when I don't handle something the way I wanted to, this is even with my kids, right? I'll go back and I'll say, I'm not proud of how I handled that. Can we try that again? And I've never heard a no
Mm.
because they're like, yeah, you shouldn't be proud of how you handled it, right? Like whether they're saying it
Oh,
to me,
kids.
they're like, and even adults, right? They're like, well, yeah, let's try that again. Right. So what I'm doing there is I'm congruent. I'm not pretending like that was okay when it wasn't. And everyone in the room sort of relaxes a little bit, whether it's just me and one other person or a whole meeting of people. And I have to go back in and I have to say, upon reflection, I wish I would have handled that differently. And I'd like to try it again now.
Mm.
It's a rare group that will say no. So, and that's what I want them saying to each other, to me, to clients is like, on second thought, can we try that again? Because what I would have
Yeah.
rather said is this. So, in the situation where there's not psychological safety and we ask for feedback and we're not getting it, I think we need to still continue to ask and we need to
Mhm.
build the relationship in other ways. So, so recognizing, oh, no, boss, everything's good, everything's good. But then you hear that you happen to overhear that they're complaining about you to someone else, right? Or the rumor mill gets back to you or whatever. I'm not going to confront around that, but what I'm thinking to myself is how, what's my responsibility in this? How have I not made it safe? Or and that's not the right, quite the right word, but how can I increase my trustability in this relationship? I have a whole little
Mm.
pet peeve around safety. I cannot make things safe for you. You decide what's safe for you. I don't.
Mm.
I can intend to be a safe person. I can do what I say I would do. I can be transparent with you. I can be congruent between my words and my actions. I can do the things that foster safety, but I don't determine what's safe for you.
That's really interesting. I love the ownership piece, though, that you're really putting it in where do I have control and influence? And that is how I show up with people and the words I choose, and if I can circle back around if I'm not having my best day and all of those things. Diana's saying in the chat, that was my first draft. Can I have a second draft? I love that.
Oh, yes.
It reminds me of a saying I once read. I'm going to get it wrong, but it was something like the first arrow is always a hit. The second one is a choice. That,
Mm,
how we respond in the moment when we're caught off guard sometimes is outside of our ability to regulate. But how we respond the second time is truly a choice. What we do next
yeah.
is a choice that we can make. So I love that. I know that we're running out of time. There's a couple of things, but I want to talk to you about this idea that giving feedback well, I've heard people describe it as a soft skill. And I've also heard people describe soft skills as like, it's great if we get people with them, but if we don't, oh well, there's nothing we can do. And I'm curious what you think about that.
I have a little bit of a different take on that. So
I
I,
thought you might.
yeah, I see feedback as uh, not at all optional, not at all soft. It's actually a very um, required part of management and supervision. If we're not doing it and we're not doing it thoughtfully and well, then then I feel like we're missing a huge part of our jobs. And we're
Mm,
also denying the people around us the chance to do better at their jobs.
mm,
So the opportunity cost for seeing this as like a nice to have instead of a must have is tremendous. Financially, even if we just go down to the bottom line, right? Like, let's catch things early before they have to be redone at a huge cost, right?
yeah.
So it is I think it's a technical skill in a certain sense. It's technical and adaptive. The adaptive part is changing our mindset about it. And the technical
Mm,
part is like there's some really clear, easy templates to follow that will become second nature if we recognize the cost of not doing it.
yeah. That's really well said. I totally agree. I think it's a very important competency. It fits in the emotional intelligence side of things, and I believe in today's world that is a core competency for people in any role that we, especially in our field, our folks doing direct service, that's their job. They're given feedback and coaching and guiding people all day long, and so we all could benefit from getting better at doing this, not from a place of having a one and done answer to all the things, but really from what you talked about, giving people voice and choice and a voice and a vote, and also being collaborative and bringing humility and curiosity to the workspace in a meaningful way.
I think too, and cut me off if I'm getting too close to the end, but there's a certain piece where we sometimes put pressure on ourselves like that we have to be emotionally intelligent about this, and I contend that even if you're not emotionally intelligent, I think there's ways to give feedback that you don't have to be. So like what I'm always
Mm,
trying to do is set up this sort of scaffolding
mhm,
so that you're cleaning up your side of the street and then you're showing up and listening to what's on their side. You don't have to know what that is in advance. You don't have to be empathetic to do this really, because your humility sort of takes the place of that and curiosity takes the
mm,
place of that. Like, I really don't know. So when I say, what can you tell me about that? It's a real question. And I'm aware that, of course, I can't know everything. And so it takes the pressure off of us to make assumptions. God, this is like the antidote to assumptions is approaching like, I don't know what's happening here, but I'm noticing this. What can you tell me?
yeah, it's powerful. I mean, I could see it being powerful on so many different levels. So I really appreciate that. And the idea that you can do it from humility and curiosity, even if, I mean, sometimes finding empathy can be tough in certain situations. So I appreciate that reframe. And I think for those of you who are with us today, I want to share the handout with you because everything we've talked about here today is here. I know my team is going to put a link to this in the chat for us as well, in case you can't get that QR code going. That you can just click on the link. Thank you, Diana. It is there. Yes, this recording is going to be sent out to you along with the handout and other information next week. So you can rewatch it, you can share it with folks. As you know, these Learn at Work Lives also end up on our website. So you can always go to our website to find, we have lots of them. But I want to tell you guys about something really exciting, which is that there's a lot more here that, and Karen has been gracious enough to put together what we're calling the feedback intensive. If you've ever been through our academies, they're 8 weeks long and they have different stuff to them. This is a 4 week intensive. It's a 90-minute once a week live session, along with about another hour to an hour and a half of work happening behind the scenes with static webinars and tools and different things. If you want to get good at giving feedback, if you want to up your skills in this way, I can't think of a better person to work with than Karen. And I'm really excited about this intensive course, all about how to do it. You can bring your real world examples to this intensive, and you can have access to Karen and other people from around the country and the globe to say what would you suggest, and to practice and to try things. I think this is going to be a really fantastic offering, and I hope that you'll check it out. I know my folks are going to put the link in the chat, and it's on our website as well. We only have a few spots, so get in there fast, and we'll be collecting names and information from people in case it fills up and you can't get in this time. We'll figure something out. But if you want more information about how to do feedback well, you either want to work with Karen individually as in a coaching relationship, or you want to jump into an intensive, she is here and she's amazing. Karen, do you want to add anything else about the intensive or this work?
Just that it's so broad and so deep and so fun. And the reason that we're keeping the attendance number down is so that everybody gets to bring their real stuff and we workshop it. So it's super interactive. It's not like you can lurk. Everybody's going to get to have their individual situations addressed for the good of the whole group. So
I
I'm
love it.
super, super excited about it.
Awesome. And then for those of you who are fans of Learn at Work Live, we're building the lineup for 2026. If you just want to get it on your calendar for the whole year, we've got a way for you to do that. We're going to put that in the chat as well. First up in January is how to make 2026 your most focused and effective year yet. We're going to be talking about getting clear, setting some good intentions, and making a plan for the new year. Then we got a whole lineup of really great stuff coming next year. As always, we'd love to stay in touch with you. You can reach out to us if you get stuck and you don't know how to find stuff. We're here and we want to chat with you. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a great rest of your day, and we will send all of this stuff out to you early next week. Take care, everyone. And Karen, thank you for sharing your magic with us. You're incredible.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, it was really, really great. And I hope you're looking at the chat because people are saying
Oh,
super valuable,
oh,
really
yeah.
helpful stuff.
I'm glad.
Take care, everyone.